Well, good afternoon. We're really happy to be here in Osceola County. I want to thank Richard Corcoran, our Commissioner of Education, for being here. Also, Superintendent Deborah Pace, and then Mike Meechan for hosting us here today. I also want to recognize James Long, who's the principal of Gateway High School. And then we also have Anthony Cook, who's a parent of 3 children here in Central Florida. And then we have our new Surgeon General, Dr. Joe Ladapo, and he is hard at work and already making a difference. So if you remember last year, we had a big push over the summer to make sure that kids were able to go to school in person. It was really important. It was important for their well-being, their education advancement, their social development, the whole 9 yards. It was also important for parents because a lot of parents had to be working. They had to put food on the table, and having kids in school is kind of how they had built their professional lives around that. So we knew it was important for the kids, first and foremost. We also knew it was important for families, and so we were able to do that. Every parent in Florida had the right to send their kids to school in person. We were much better for it last year having done that. And I can tell you there's places across this country where there's some kids couldn't even get into school for a year in person, and the learning loss, the loss of development, some of the social, stunning of the growth in terms of social growth, that's going to be very, very difficult to overcome. So we knew there was a lot of challenges. Superintendents like Deborah worked very, very hard. Principals worked hard, teachers worked hard. That was one of the reasons why we worked hard to get $1,000 bonuses for all our principals and teachers, because we recognized it was a different type of school year, but it was very, very important that we do that. And so now fast forward to this year, there's been a lot of discussion, of course, about parents' rights, whether kids, particularly these young kids, can be forced to have to wear a mask, or whether that's something that the parent should be able to decide based on the health and well-being of their kids. I would note there's still litigation going on. We're going to end up winning that case in the first DCA, but the results, the fact is the cases have gone down everywhere in the state since school started. And that's not just for school kids, that's for the whole community. So the idea that somehow schools were a big problem, that has been refuted yet again. And we've had a really significant decline in cases, hospitalizations, hospital admissions, the whole 9 yards. So we're happy about that. And as much as play as the parents' rights got in terms of making sure parents had the right with respect to masking, one of the things that the parents have been most concerned about have been policies that would quarantine dozens and dozens of healthy students if there was one positive test in a particular classroom. And that was incredibly disruptive to kids' education, to have someone at home who is healthy, doesn't have any symptoms, and yet they're not able to be in school and not able to learn. They get not allowed to participate in activities. That's been a huge, huge impediment to having a normal functioning school year. And it's also very difficult for parents because we have a lot of folks, particularly here in Central Florida, a lot of 2-parent households. Both are working to put food on the table. We've got a lot of single-parent households, including single moms, have to work to put food on the table. Many of our folks in Florida are not able to work from home. They've got to actually be at that job, and they've got to be there earning a living. And so they get a call maybe the night before saying, hey, your son or daughter was quote exposed, and they're going to have to quarantine. That makes it very difficult for them to continue doing their jobs and continuing to put food on the table. So we've been looking at this for a long time, and the European CDC always advised against healthy quarantines. They advised a symptom-based approach last year, and basically if someone is sick, obviously they stay home, and if they come to school sick, then you send them home, of course. But anyone that may have been in contact without symptoms should be able to stay in school they can be monitored. The parents can be notified that there may have been a case, and then parents obviously can make decisions, so forth. But the parents, have a right to have their healthy kids in school, and I think the Europeans recognize that. The United Kingdom does that. Sweden, a lot of these countries have done it this way, and basically they're treating this like they would treat typical respiratory viruses. And Iowa in the United States has also done it. And so we here today, Dr. Lapido put out a revised rule for the school year, which basically recognizes this, that quarantining healthy students is incredibly damaging for their educational advancement. It's also incredibly disruptive for families all throughout the state of Florida, but particularly here in Central Florida. And so we are going to be following a symptoms-based approach. If somebody is symptomatic, of course, they stay home. If there's a close contact, but somebody has not developed any symptoms, you monitor them. You notify the parent. The parent always has the right to have their kids stay home if they think that's in the best interest of the student and the family. 100%. We would not want to intrude on that. But if a parent has a healthy child, that child has a right to be in school. And that's going to make it so much better for so many folks. And I think that this is something that's really been long overdue, but it's been done in most of the European countries and in other states in the United States, such as in Iowa. So this will really make a positive difference for a lot of families throughout Florida. And we want to make sure that we're following that data, we're following science, and we're recognizing that England the Oxford did a review of quarantined students, and they found like 98% of them were not ever COVID positive. And so just think about that. I mean, it'd be one thing if like 90% of them were COVID positive who were exposed, but it's 98%, and in Florida, it's been similar. Most of the students who are ordered to go home and quarantine don't end up getting sick. So let's just recognize that and make sure that we're doing what's right for parents and for students. And so Dr. Ladapo is going to talk about this in a second, but this is something with particularly schools have been in now for over a month. We've seen big declines. Schools are not driving this epidemic. And we know that from last school year. We now know it from this school year because if they were, we had schools coming in at the height of a wave, you would have seen that thing take off even more, and instead it's plummeted. And we're very happy to see it plummet. We're also happy to see statewide just such a steep decline in hospital admissions and really serious symptomatic illness. Decline in hospital admissions, emergency room visits are down dramatically. The hospital census for COVID, I think, is 28 days in a row, 28 days in a row, which is really good, and it's been cut in half, more than half, since about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And we really stressed this early treatment with the monoclonal antibodies, and I think the fact that people who were symptomatic, developing serious illness, high risk, had treatment options, both people that were vaccinated and unvaccinated, has helped keep thousands and thousands of people out of the hospitals. And so this is going to continue to be an important part of what we do to provide Floridians with the ability to protect their own health. Biden is cutting to Florida our monoclonal antibody treatment. It used to be you could just, whatever you needed, you'd order it, they'd come. HHS has seized control of that, and now they're effectively rationing it. So we had a cut last week, and we have another cut this week. So we're working on ways to overcome that, but I think clearly you see, this has been very successful, and it's helped an awful lot of people. So we want to continue doing that. But for now, this, I think, is something that's long overdue in terms of the school policy. Let's focus on symptoms. Let's have a safe environment. If people are coming to school sick, let's make sure that they're back home. And if they get sick, make sure that they're not coming to school. And I think that's 100% something that we all should do. As you do have a case, if someone's exposed, not an automatic quarantine. If they develop symptoms, then obviously, but really the parent is going to have that ability for a healthy student to be able to have a place in the classroom. So this is something that I think is gonna be very beneficial for a lot of parents and a lot of students. So I'm gonna have our Surgeon General come up, say a few things about it, and then we'll hear from some of the other folks who are here with us today. Okay, Joe?